Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where husband and wife team go over all the storytelling, world building, and characters of video games, because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and this is episode 80.
80. Whoa, nice.
But before we get into that, if you'd like to contact us, you can find information down in the description to contact us on Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, and Reddit.
Woohoo!
I have to check the Reddit more frequently.
You should.
You can also contact us by email over at loretogether@gmail.com. And if you support the podcast, you can do that in multiple ways. One way is to give us 5 stars wherever you're listening. We know that Spotify, iTunes, and a couple others do that.
Podchaser, I believe, yes.
And if you'd like to monetarily support us, you can do that over on patreon.com/loretogether, where you can pay a per episode pledge to get early access to episodes, as well as all of the various Let's Plays and audiobooks, which I really have to get back to, and all that fun stuff.
Well, we are keeping a regular update of my Let's Play.
Your Let's Play, yes.
Mm-hmm. Which, have we uploaded the first episode to the public yet?
We have not. Look forward to that.
That's going to be coming soon. That'll be on our YouTube channel. Yes, our YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. youtube.com/@loretogether.
Woohoo. Yes, the Let's Play for mine is going to be 4 weeks behind publicly, so if you want to be able to keep up with it faster, Patreon.
I think we're more than 4 weeks behind now, actually.
Well, that's not on me at this point, so...
No, it's totally on me.
That's the plan. Maybe you'll get 2 public episodes by the time it drops. Who knows? All right. With that being said, let's get to the actual episode today, which Mystic had to try really hard to hide it from me. Really harder than usual.
I'm going to see if you can even guess what this is.
Okay.
So, 1999 game.
Okay.
Huge open world for the time.
Mm-hmm.
On the Dreamcast.
Oh, how the heck am I supposed to know this? We did not have a Dreamcast growing up, so but did it come out on anything else later?
It did come out on I believe it came out on the Xbox, or at least the second one came out on the Xbox.
Okay.
And then eventually, both those games were released in a HD re-release. And then the third one came out not too long ago after a massive Kickstarter campaign. In fact, it was probably one of the most successful or most rapidly successful Kickstarters of all time.
I feel like I should know this now. But it was an open world game. But no, I'm just gonna.
Okay. Also, just so everyone knows, before I give Safi the title here, I am going to butcher a ton of names and words in this episode from both the Japanese and Chinese languages. So apologies for that ahead of time. We are going to be diving into the first game of the Shenmue series.
Oh. Okay. Open world back then was very different.
Yes. The term open world didn't exist. We'll actually touch on that.
Wow. Shenmue, revolutionary.
Yes. Released in 1999 for the Dreamcast, Shenmue was at the time the highest development cost for a single game ever. Mm-hmm. It beats out 1997's Final Fantasy VII's development budget by a couple million, and even today, and not even adjusting for inflation... in 1999 dollars, it is the 11th most expensive game.
Oh, wow.
So, big budget because of how much new stuff it was doing.
Right. Yeah, I've watched only a little bit. I've never known the plot of the whole game, but I've only watched a little bit of what it was doing and the way it tracked, time of day in the game.
Yes.
And relationships and choices. And even... a palette moving mini game.
We'll get there.
That you have to do. It was doing a lot for 1999, let's be honest.
So, its creator, Yu Suzuki, having made more arcade-style games like Ferrari racing game Outrun and 3D fighting game Virtua Fighter, decided he wanted to branch out and started looking into RPGs. And when Suzuki started doing his research into RPGs, he grew kind of annoyed at how rigid they were. Movement was on a grid, combat was turn-based. Of course, during his early research, he was playing console RPGs akin to Phantasy Star and the earlier Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games.
Okay, yeah.
And likely didn't expose to things like Elder Scrolls Arena, which was right around that time, which tended to be more open and more fluid. Of course, Elder Scrolls Arena also had its own faults.
Well, that's also kind of like the idea that a lot of gamers have of like a Western RPG versus like a JRPG. Really, is that Western RPGs are more kind of like you go on this epic journey with these little pit stops along the way.
Yeah,
and the JRPG is sometimes more linear, and especially the combat is where they have huge differences.
So he decided to make something different than those other RPGs. In fact, a preview of Shenmue, they had a video preview. They drew a giant red X through the term RPG.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
What did they use instead? Well, these days we'd use open world.
Right.
But in 1999, the term open world hadn't been coined. Like,
at all.
It wasn't a thing yet. So Suzuki described Shenmue as a FREE game, an free, an acronym meaning Full Reactive Eyes Entertainment.
I'm sorry, why? Full Reactive Eyes Entertainment? That just sounds like Virtual Boy.
A little bit. I think there's some maybe lost in translation too.
Fair.
So there's a couple of different gameplay systems and world systems at play here. Free Quest is the system we deal with the most. This is investigation, talking to characters, doing side jobs, quests, exploring, all that stuff. Some characters and items are there simply to flesh out the world.
Okay.
Make it feel more alive. Other conversations and information are there to move the plot along. And the plot in this game does move slowly.
Some people like that, though.
Yeah. The game also has an impressive weather system. Weather is a mix, if you choose it to be, of randomly generated weather with restrictions. Like, it's not going to rapidly change, but it will randomly rain, and then you'll get, like, fog and then whatever. Mm-hmm. Or you can also implement weather based on actual reports from the location and time period the game takes place in.
Oh, that's right, because it was even taking place in the past when it came out in 1999.
Yes. And this, of course, plays into the quest system and at least helping with the immersion. People carrying umbrellas, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Free battle is our second main pillar of the game, and our hero can learn new martial arts techniques and such, as well as fight opponents quite frequently. The two systems, quest and battle, are obviously intertwined. For example, you can speak to masters about the world to learn new skills and such. If all of this is sounding like stuff that is commonplace now, it is.
Yes.
But of course, in 1999, this wasn't common at all.
We have to remember that now we're talking about something that happened almost 25 years ago. And
was in development for 5 years before that.
Like, we probably have people who listen to this who were born in 1999.
Yeah.
And that person in America can legally drive, drink, vote.
Possibly as kids. Hi.
Yeah. I mean, are able to, like, rent an apartment, could have completed at least an undergraduate degree. This is, it's funny because there's this perception with a lot of people, especially I think millennial and older, that, you know, video games were this kids thing. And as the art form has evolved to really recognize the fact that no, it's not a kids thing, it's just another media to consume, and you might prefer that. We are starting to get to this point that now that it's become a mainstream idea that we now feel really old. Like, you don't think about people who love reading books feeling old because they love to read books. You don't think people who like film don't feel that way. But because video games are so new, now that we're accepting it as a tradition, as a medium for any kind of storytelling, God, we feel old. We feel so old right now.
There is one more gameplay system that Shenmue is very famous for, and that is QuickTime events, or QTEs. For those of you who don't know,
yay.
these are cutscenes that require you to play Simon Says on a controller. Basically, a prompt pops up on the screen and you have to quickly press the button. Shenmue isn't the first game to do this. For the origins of that type of gameplay, we'd have to go back to interactive movies like Dragon Lair,
Yes.
which didn't tell you which button to press.
Right, you just
Or
made a
Time
choice.
Gal, which did tell you which direction to press.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
But Shenmue was one of the earliest games to use the modern style of QTEs, and Yu Suzuki is credited with coining the term QuickTime Event.
That's cool. But this is also around the same time that you had things like Parappa the Rappa. So, the idea of having to...
Rhythm game is a little different, though, I feel.
It is a little different, but I feel like, it's not an event. It's a whole... it's a little different. But still, wasn't something that would have been completely out of left field, per se.
Yeah.
Kind of different than how essentially this free system works. Like, that'd be something that people would be able to accommodate to more easily.
Yeah, I feel like QTEs are slowly kind of drifting away from being as prevalent. There was a period around the mid to late 2000s that they were just... every game seemed to have them.
I think
they're still a thing, obviously, but
I think people prefer to have a game where they feel like they're actually driving the main character's, choices and journey.
Yeah.
And it's QuickTime events feel like a choose your own adventure game, like turn the page if you want to see what happens about it. It doesn't feel as much of like a active participation.
Yeah, I think that when they're used sparingly, it's also better.
Yes, like
this game does not use it sparingly because it is so new. I mean, it's basically created in this game.
I think,
so.
If I'm remembering correctly, so I used to like to play. I never finished it, but I used to like to play Dark Cloud on PlayStation.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
It has a randomly generated dungeon. If you want a good review of it, our fellow partner of the network, Blocks Game Reviews, who's a YouTube channel. Which reviews a lot of like older classic games, actually has really good coverage of Dark Cloud, if you're curious. So random side note. But that had like basically once a chapter, I will call it. Each level you would get new people who would join your party, and you could switch one character in and out depending on the tasks they needed to do. And once per those, I feel like there were some QuickTime events, at most 6 buttons, and that was it. Because the rest of it, you were basically dungeon crawling and fighting with, depending on what kind of fighter you had with you.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, truth be told, the first game in particular hasn't aged all that well compared to modern gameplay standards. Which makes sense. But also the same can be said of a lot of games we've covered. They don't all age well. They're all a product of their time, and for what it's worth, the second game was much better received by the fan community, even if the franchise itself has never been extremely popular relative to its budget and contemporaries.
Right, exactly.
Now, of course, it also hasn't aged well because art style. Trying to go for a very realistic art style ages a game quicker. So
that is very true, which is, I think, why I tend to prefer the stuff that isn't trying too hard.
Yeah. So we've talked about development long enough. Let's begin our story. And surprisingly, we start the story before we even start the game. Sit the main menu long enough, and you'll get a prologue, little tiny cinematic.
Wait, what? I hadn't heard of this part. Oh my gosh.
We have a shot of a young Chinese woman in a yellow dress and hat at a cliff edge, bird flying around, and we hear her saying a poem. I'm not going to bring her up too much, but our main character sees her in dreams at points, though there's never much said, and we won't meet her actually until a future game and a future Lore Together episode.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The poem is, he shall appear from a far eastern land across the sea, a young man who has yet to know his potential. This potential is a power that could either destroy him or realize his will. His courage shall determine his fate. The path he must traverse fraught with adversity. I await whilst praying for this destiny predetermined since ancient times. A pitch-black night unfolds with the morning star as its only light, and thus the saga begins. It should be noted, Shenmue 3 came out not too long ago, and the story still isn't done.
Okay, that's
also, there is an anime adaptation of Shenmue 1 and 2.
Okay, I will probably end up watching that at some point then.
We begin in Yamanose, a small fictional area near the real-life Japanese city of Yokosuka, about an hour's drive south of Tokyo.
Okay, cool.
It's November 29th, 1986. High school student Ryo Hazukai returns home to his family dojo.
1986, that's interesting. So they basically went back 13 years.
Yeah.
Just for the setting of the story. All right.
Yeah. And I think I said Hazukai. It's Hazuki. Sorry.
Okay.
Walking in, he finds Ine Hayata, their live-in housekeeper, and a bit of a mother figure to Ryo, Ryo's mother having passed away.
Okay.
I don't remember what from. I should have written that down, but I don't. She is sprawled on the ground outside the dojo. She's been attacked, but she's conscious and tells him that she's all right, but that his father... Ryu moves towards the dojo proper to find his friend, Masayuki Fukuhara, flying through the doors to land hard on the ground outside. After helping him, Ryo returns to witness his father, Iwao Hazuki, battling with a man dressed in a green silk Chinese suit known as Lan Di. Two men in black suits restrain Ryo from intervening. Lan Di demands Iwao hand over a item known as the Dragon Mirror, though Iwao refuses to reveal where it is. Mm-hmm. Ryo intervenes in battle after his father is injured, but is injured himself by Lan Di, who is pretty quick on his feet.
Oh, really?
Like nobody manages to even lay a finger on him.
Wow.
He lifts Ryo from the ground and threatens to kill him, prompting Iwao to reveal the location of the mirror buried under the cherry blossom tree outside. After Lan Di's henchmen recover the mirror, he mentions a man named Sum Ning Zhao, who was allegedly killed by Iwao in a rural Chinese village.
Okay. Whoa. All right.
Ryo notices a strange tattoo on Lan Di's arm as he holds the mirror. Iwao and Lan Di then fight as Lan Di wishes Iwao to die as a warrior. Lan Di finishes the fight with a deadly blow, and he and his men leave. Ryo's father dies shortly after in his arms, telling Ryo to keep his friends and those he loves close to him.
Whoa, this is a very intense way to start the story, by the way. Hey, we just made our protagonist who already lost his mother, and now you get to see how he loses his father. Lucky you.
Honestly, I didn't know that he lost his mother until doing my research.
Oh.
I thought Ine-san was his mother when I first played this years ago.
Right. I could see missing that. Yeah.
Also, I will be putting honorifics on some characters, so Masayuki Fukuhara becomes Fukusan.
Yes.
And Inehata becomes Ine-san. So I'll add them in here and there, but generally I'll be referring by last names.
Right. Family names. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 days later, Ine-san finds a letter in the mail for Iwao. Meanwhile, Ryo is having nightmares about Lan Di, which is fair.
Yeah. That's called grief.
Waking up, he decides it's time to do something, but he doesn't even know where to start.
Right.
And I think I actually forgot to mention a line because I skipped it. Oh, no. When he found the doors broken in, he also noticed that there was a strange black car parked nearby. So
by the point that he's thinking about it, that's like the only lead he has is this car.
Yes.
Okay.
Ine-san gives him his daily allowance of 500 yen, which is about $3 then, $6 now, enough for a bento box lunch, about.
Okay. Yeah, that's how old is Ryo again?
18.
18. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Seems like a little, but at the same time, I have no idea what their income situation is like.
Honestly, I was looking it up, and I just typed in, what can 500 yen get me? And someone goes, oh, that's a decent bento lunch.
Okay. All right.
So, also you have to remember, Japan is the king of vending machines, convenience stores, all that stuff.
That's true.
So,
but nobody should be living off a vending machine like ramen and fruit drinks. You know what I mean? That's not a way to live.
But that's his allowance to
have
spend.
Fun. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Or get lunch out or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
He begins to investigate the incident with the local people of his hometown, hitting up Yamanose, Sakuragaoka, another fictional part within the real-life Yokosuka, and Dobuita Street, a real location and a bit of a pilgrimage for Shenmue superfans.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you can actually kind of, it's been decades now, but you can kind of see it if you look at like Google Maps. You can be like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's
like,
cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Ryu's first clue is the car he saw. Some of his neighbors saw it on the day of the murder. Though his leads are few and far between, Ryo slowly makes progress in his investigation by interviewing people all over Yokosuka, from Megumi, the young girl with an orphaned kitten, Nozomi Harasaki, Ryo's girl/friend?
So she's a girl who's a friend?
No, it's complex, kind of. She's his girlfriend. But his feelings are mixed at best. She's kind of has a crush on him. And he's like, he is friends with her, so she's like, I'm your girlfriend, but he's very...
So it's a one-sided relationship to a certain extent.
It's...
Because they're friends, and she's putting on the romantic airs about it, and he's just kind of like, that's not my deal.
But he's not aromantic. He just doesn't know what he feels.
Okay. That's fair. He's
he'll
ambivalent.
sit with her at the park. He'll put his arm around her, stuff like that. But he's not... Yeah, the dialogue in this game is also a little bit weird.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Might be translation issues. The acting is also a little bit weird, but that's kind of par for the course back in the 90s.
They didn't do full voice acting, if I remember.
This is almost entirely voice acted.
Oh, okay. I thought
in
they
fact,
didn't.
I'm having trouble thinking of a character that's not voice acted.
Because I didn't think the original was fully voice acted.
It was. This came on 3 GD ROMs, which is the Sega Dreamcast disc. It was like 1 point something gigabytes.
I thought I watched something where somebody did like they were going to do a fan dubbing of it.
I could see that working too.
Okay.
Because, the audio quality for the voice acting is just not great.
So that's why they would have done it. Okay, I'd have to. It's been a while since I watched that video.
A lot of people sound like they're talking into a tin can.
Fair. All right.
And this is also the early days. Like, I literally saw somebody's write-up and review being like, this is one of the first games I remember where characters had emotion.
Right.
Like, this is before Final Fantasy X's really kind of weird dialogue, especially the laughing scene. Like, this is... Yeah. So, getting emotion across, the voice acting, getting good voice actors, like, they're not terrible, but it's definitely different than what you get now.
Yes. Exactly.
So we covered Megumi, we covered Nozomi. We also have Tom, a Jamaican-American man from New York City who runs Tom's Hot Dogs on Dobuita Street. That's
an interesting place to stop your life. Like, you come from... You're American who comes to Japan.
Yeah, he literally... Everybody in this game has a write-up somewhere.
Okay.
And... Tom, I don't know if he's Jamaican-American. I know he's American, but he is black, he speaks with a Jamaican accent, and he has Rasta braids.
So at least that's the insinuated.
Or he speaks with a bad Jamaican accent. Because,
it's insinuated. Yeah, okay.
But his write-up is basically he has hitchhiked around the world learning like all different things, including martial arts at points, and he's just happens to be here now. He's also one of Ryu's like best friends. So,
that's hilarious. Okay.
To the point that near the end of the game, we actually get like a goodbye scene.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Because Tom is going back home. He's like, yeah, I'm leaving, so,
Yeah. That's crazy.
The information web for this game is kind of insane, actually. There's like 5 or more people who know the person you need to talk to, but it's not always clearly done who is the person you have to talk to. For example, the chain we just mentioned, Megumi to Tom, is not direct.
Oh, okay.
Megumi might point you to the old man, Shigeo Yamagishi, who hurt his back when the black car almost hit him, causing him to fall over.
Oh, wow.
Visiting him, he tells you the car is heading toward Dobuita Street. There you can meet up with Nozomi, who tells Ryo that Tom had words with the men in the black car. However, You can also hear about Yamagishi from almost getting hit from Natsuki Sumiya-san. And who you hear about Yamagishi hurting his back from is dependent on what you feed a stray kitten that Megumi has.
Wow. That's a lot of detail to put into a game. Yeah. That's insane.
It's literally like, oh, because you did this, it reminds Megumi this, so now you don't have to go talk to Sumiya-san. You can just get the information from Megumi. But if you don't do the thing with the cat, it doesn't cross her mind, so you don't get the information.
Oh, so okay.
It's like an insane level of detail.
Yeah, that's
for
interesting. The time. Yeah, they put a lot of thought into how people work on a regular basis.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks to this tangled nest of investigation, Ryu has a new trail to follow now. Landi's clothing leads him to speak with the Chinese citizens around Dobuita Street, and there he learns that Landi is likely part of a cartel or Chinese mafia.
Okay.
That in turn leads him to the harbor district of Yokosuka, where Ryo gets into a fight at the Heartbeats bar. I'm skipping tons of stuff every time we get to a story beat.
I was going to say, like, that. I feel like we leaped far ahead, but that's understandable if this game is so chock full of detail.
Yeah, there's basically like, oh, you want to look for sailors? Go here. Oh, you're looking for sailors? Go here. Oh, no, we don't have go to this bar. You know, it just...
Oh, wow.
How long do I want to spend going through every single step?
Right, exactly. Okay.
The bartender tells Ryo to find a guy named Charlie who might know more. This is actually after...
the fight scene?
After the fight scene, he's like, what do you want? I'm looking for Charlie. I'm looking for the cartel. Go talk to Charlie. So, and Charlie is part of the local cartel and has a tattoo similar to Landi's. Turns out it's not at all similar to Landi's when we do track down Charlie after being attacked a few times by the baddies.
Yikes.
He says he'll set Ryu up with the cartel after Ryu wrenches his arm around a bit.
Okay. That's an interesting negotiating tactic.
Yeah. It's when Ryu leaves Charlie's that we find out that Ryu has been skipping school.
Oh, wow.
Because Nozomi comes up to him to tell him that she just got out of class and their college orientation and he wasn't there.
That's no good.
He's not studying for his entrance exams either, which Japanese entrance exams are brutal.
Many a manga have been written about the stress under getting the right entrance exam result for your career choice. Yeah.
From what I read in a couple things, it's easier once you get in.
Yeah.
Comparatively, but the exam itself is just...
The exam's brutal. I think Britain, I feel like Britain has a similar situation too. And it's just a lot of stress to get essentially as high of a score as possible. Oof.
Yeah. The fact that Ryo is going after a cartel is not lost on Fukusan and Ine-san back home. Ine-san presents him, basically is like saying, don't go, this, you should see this. This letter came for your father. Problem is, the letter, once they open it, is in Chinese, and neither Ryo nor Ine-san nor Fukusan know how to read it.
Did they say specifically if it's Mandarin or Cantonese, or did they just...
It's also, they do kind of cover a little bit because it is written backwards and in a different style than usual. So
even if you knew a little bit about how to read it, they've made it even more difficult. Okay.
Anyway, Charlie double crosses Ryo. Doesn't go according to plan though when Ryo kicks the gang's collective butt. Though they did steal a kid's ball to like taunt him with.
What? That's so weird.
The kid's like, they stole my ball, and Ryo's like, who? The man with the sunglasses, and it's Charlie.
Oh my gosh.
But that kid turns out to be Chinese, so now we get to have the letter translated by this kid's kindly grandmother.
Do we know anything about the Chinese population in Japan?
So Yokosuka itself is home to a lot of manufacturing. I think Nissan is there specifically, like one of their main manufacturing plants. It's also the home to one of the pivotal U.S. bases, like naval bases.
Okay.
And there is a size, like it's majority, at least in Yokosuka, majority Japanese, but there is sizable populations of Chinese, Filipinos, Americans.
Interesting.
There, so
okay, I'm just so used to Japanese culture dominating all of Japan because there aren't as many immigrants in there as there are to, say, America, which America is mostly immigrants or the descendants thereof, with very little Native Americans to speak of.
True. So anyway, the grandmother, it still takes us time from kid to grandmother, weirdly enough.
Right.
But, we meet a few people, talk to people, meet grandmother. She says, I can translate it. She holds it up to a mirror and reads it. And basically it says, beware those who pursue the mirror. If you ever need help, seek the aid of Master Chen.
Oh.
Yoanda Zu. And then a bunch of numbers. And then the phrase is, Father's heaven, 9 dragons, Mother's earth, comrades.
What? I'm sorry. I'm like, is there anything I can get out of that phrase right now? And I think no. I think there's nothing I can get out of that right now.
Yeah. So the numbers turn out to be a phone number. So
okay.
Ryo calls the number. Basically, when they say Father's heaven, he says 9 dragons. When they say Mother's earth, he says comrades, and gets told warehouse number 8.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
Before we head out to find warehouse number 8, we have a nighttime meeting with Nozomi, who is being told she has to move back to Canada and wants to tell Ryo how she feels, but he doesn't know how he feels for her because all Ryo has is an unquenching desire for revenge at this point.
That's the only thing that powers me is my lust for revenge.
Yeah, there's also a little bit of, I don't remember if this was from a comic book or if this was mentioned somewhere in the game or if it's from the anime, but there's this line about how Ryu was teased for liking a girl at some point, and there's also a line later on in the game that he doesn't want to keep people close because of all his problems that he's dealing with right now. He kind of keeps people at a distance.
Well, that makes sense. So, if you're trying to avenge your father's death by hunting down cartel members, it might be best to have very little connections with, anybody else who basically they can use to get to you.
Yeah. Anyway, he asks around the non-warehouse part of town how to get to the warehouse part of the city. Basically, which bus to take, how do I get, and that type of stuff.
Right.
And getting there, in the OG Dreamcast release, this was the end of Disc 1, so we're only a third of the way through the game by that measure.
No! This is a lot!
When there, eventually he finds out that it's not new warehouse number 8, it is old warehouse number 8, because there's 2 different warehouse districts. So through a ton of, meeting people, beating up people, talking to all sorts of different characters. I'm totally forgetting Goro and these other characters. There's just so many people to deal with. Finally, Ryo meets up with Master Chen. So Yuanda Zo and Ryo's father brought a mirror out of China. And when Ryo tells him that Lan Di stole it, Master Chen reveals that Lan Di is the name of the leader of the Chi-Yo men. The Chi-Yo, for what it's worth, is from Chinese mythology. It's basically a deity of war. So the Chi-Yo men are lacking in creativity for their name, but
okay. All right, fair.
Yeah. Master Chen also mentions there's another mirror, and Ryo should find it and bring it to him. It has a phoenix design. The one that Lan Di stole, if you remember, had a dragon design.
A dragon and a phoenix, very common mythical creatures, yes.
It is while searching for the phoenix mirror, we get a bunch of layers finally being pulled back. Not enough, mind you, but still.
But just enough to keep us intrigued and informed.
Ryo is being followed by Master Chen's son, Gui Zhang. He tells Ryo that he's keeping him safe, kind of, I'm your bodyguard.
Yeah.
And Ryo's like, I don't need a bodyguard.
Did you see me take out all those people before? I took on the cartel, sir.
Yeah. And, well, not entirely yet. He's taken a couple of, thugs.
Okay, fair.
And Ryo must find the phoenix mirror before Lan Di and his men do. Then we cut to a golem-looking guy named Chai on a rooftop overhearing about the phoenix mirror.
His name is T.
But, they literally call him the skinhead.
Interesting.
Like Ryo and Nozomi both call him the skinhead, and his teeth are just whatever. He does look like Gollum. Like, it's a good approximation, actually.
Oof.
If Gollum was correctly proportioned, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right.
After much investigation in the dojo involving the family crest and a ton of exploration and picking up items, Ryo finally locates the second mirror underneath the dojo, buried in a wall. He takes it to Master Chen, who reveals that Lan Di needs both mirrors to allow Chiyo to resurrect itself on Earth.
I was going to say, like, you said buried in a wall, and I was like, is this kind of like a survivor totem? Where we have to find this to gain immunity? But no, we're going to perform a ritual. So yeah, a little bit more higher stakes than, a reality TV show.
In the middle of this exposition dump, Chai makes his entrance. This is, we've gotten the mirror. We've gone back to where Master Chen is, which he's in old warehouse number 8. And Chai makes his entrance, dropping from high up in the warehouse into the group of them, grabbing the mirror. He jumps up onto like this pallet or something on a crane.
Yeah.
Stops to gloat just long enough for the crane to start moving and throw him off balance, and he drops the mirror and then makes his escape. So,
did he shatter the mirror?
No, this is like a polished piece of metal, not like a
glass with a reflective backing. Okay, great.
Yeah, these are ancient mirrors. So.
Ancient mirrors, yes. I should have known that they were ancient. Oh my gosh, have survived everything mirrors.
Yeah, there are so many people like, how is that a mirror? Well, A, it's the Dreamcast, so don't expect full reflectivity.
Right.
And B, it's polished, like highly polished metal when it's not stored stored buried under a cherry tree or stored in the wall underneath the building.
That's how they made mirrors back in the day. That's why there weren't a lot of them back in the day. It was a big deal to have mirrors because they were expensive.
So Master Chen thinks Lan Di has already moved on to Hong Kong. He doesn't know, but he's like, I think he's probably off in Hong Kong already and back on the mainland. So Ryo asks Master Chen and his son to help get him to Hong Kong, but they refuse. Master Chen tells Ryo not to waste his life on revenge, especially on a quest that's unlikely to end well, as Lan Di is far too powerful of a martial artist. In fact, like, Ryo calls it a strange style at one point. He's very flowing and
He's fluid?
Yeah.
Is this kind of like a drunken master kind of fluidity, or
I couldn't tell you that.
Or is it based on a different one? I was just curious.
So now Ryo has to get to Hong Kong himself, but he is a poor high school student. Literally, I think he has a couple $100 total in savings.
Yes.
And his son won't help him. Mostly because Fukusan butts in and says it's for revenge and you have to help him. And she's like, no.
No. I don't have to tell this young man that revenge is a necessary, pursuit. That's not the best lesson to teach anybody.
And then Fukusan gives us his life savings in a piggy bank to help pay for the trip. And it still doesn't help because it's roughly the same amount that Ryo had. It's worth noting here that Fukusan is like 7 years older than Ryo.
Oh my gosh.
But he does have enough money. He can't afford like a plane ticket or whatever, but he has enough for a boat.
Oh, so he can take a boat ride to Hong Kong.
The problem is...
That's a long trip, right?
Yeah. The problem is he gets this ticket...
Yeah.
From like a shady merchant. Like, it's not like he's not going through the travel agency. He's going through, or the renowned travel agency. He's going through like the lesser known shady travel agency.
Oh, thanks.
He gives them cash. He doesn't get a receipt. He doesn't get the ticket.
I suddenly have like the merchant from the Resident Evil games that just breaks out of nowhere.
What are you buying?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he gives money to this woman, doesn't get anything in return for it, and she's like, come back. So he goes back, and there's no ticket. I don't have records of you buying anything. I don't have a ticket for you. Eventually, he does get a ticket.
How is this a lot of like 10 steps to finally getting the ticket?
The problem is he gets a ticket. He goes to the arcade. I can't quite remember why I didn't write it down, but Chai attacks him at the arcade and eats the ticket.
I'm sorry, what? Of all the things he eats, how did he get the ticket?
He just took it from Ryo.
Wait,
like as they were fighting, he's just like,
it's in Ryo's hand, and why is Ryo hiding? Wait, I'm sorry. Rio is fighting with a ticket in his fist.
I don't think so. I think it's picked from his pocket or whatever. I can't remember.
I was going to say, he is a man. Menswear has pockets. This should not have been a thing. And if anything,
unfortunately, my trying to summarize, I have lost that detail. I'm sorry.
There's so many things going on here that just... And who?
Part of it was also...
Why don't you just steal the ticket? Just steal the ticket. It'd make more sense if you said he ran and flushed it down the toilet just to toy with him rather than he eats it. What is going on with Chai?
So Chai's a little messed in the head. Like
apparently.
all his dialogue is kind of like really off kilter. The dialogue in this game is already kind of weird, but Chai is weird for this game even. And there's other characters later on who are like side characters, but one of them talks... This old homeless man talks so much like Yoda, it's insane.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the dialogue doesn't always quite work. And, yeah, they're all really great caricatures, I guess I could say. So Rio was set up by the place he bought the ticket from. So he said he heads back there and chases the owner through the street like a bunch of QTEs, like dodge traffic, all this stuff. And at the end of the scene, the owner ends up on the ground as we're kind of panning up with Rio's hand on his neck, and then we end up disc 2. Like,
what? What the heck? Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow.
I'm only bringing that up because they're cutting them in good places, you know?
Right.
So we start up. The shop owner, I can't remember his name. I think it's Jimmy or something. Tells him Chai works with the Mad Angels down at the harbor. He doesn't know much aside from the fact that the Mad Angels extort the workers, and if Rio worked at the harbor, he'd eventually meet them. So that's where Rio heads next. We get into the scene with Nozomi wishing she could stay with him, so they sit in a park at night again, and, that's about it.
Basically ponder about why this guy is so distracted from romance. Oh, that's right. I'm on a revenge plot.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we still keep getting these dreams of either the mirrors or his father, or Lan Di, or the girl from the beginning that we still have no reference for, but she shows up in his dreams.
Oh, great.
So, and we have no reference for her until the next game.
Yikes. Oh, my Lord. Okay.
He eventually takes a forklift driving job, including on-the-job training. Like, they're like, yeah, show him how to do it. I was like, OSHA is not a thing, apparently.
Oh, man.
Enter a bunch of QTEs where we drive forklifts, race forklifts, move crates, race bikes at night with gang members, drive more forklifts, interrupt gang members beating on the other workers.
So he essentially drops out of school, becomes a blue-collar worker with a dangerous like social life with bike racing. This is interesting. Was this a novel? This feels like it kind of took a novel twist.
Race more forklifts, move more crates, interrupt more fights, learn some martial arts from a homeless man, get a goodbye. Get a goodbye from Nozomi as she's leaving for Canada. Race more forklifts, fight Charlie and his goons again, move some more crates. You get the idea.
Yeah, this sounds a little monotonous now.
Literally every single day. So as you mentioned at the beginning, there is a time system in this.
Yeah.
Every single day you start work, you have forklift races at the beginning. Then you have a quota of how many crates you have to move.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is too much. This is way too much. I can't deal. I can't deal right now. This feels like that we had a lot of like exciting like detective work going on from a young kid, and then it suddenly just stops.
Well, no, here's the thing. It doesn't. So when I'm saying interrupt more fights, learn martial arts from a homeless man, those all happen after you do work for the day. So every single day, something interesting does happen.
But they're making you do the work day first?
Yeah.
That feels unnecessary.
In fact, one of the Let's Plays I was doing started skipping the work days.
Because it's
skipping
boring.
The crates and stuff. Yeah.
Nobody's having fun pretending that they're a forklift blue-collar worker unless you're like 8 years old and you just love big trucks. That's just not how that works. There is
a little bit of like a puzzle aspect to it because it's not the same thing every day. It's like, oh, this day we're taking crates from here, follow this route. You have to get crates from here, here, and here in this amount of time.
Okay, that's satisfying if that's like your real life job, but I'm playing, I'm doing a recreation, and you're making me do a job that doesn't pay. Like, this doesn't pay me anything. I just have to.
It does actually. Oh, it pays him, not you.
Right,
I see.
it pays the character. You, the player, are just sitting there playing pallet Tetris for no other reason than, if I don't do this, I don't get to figure out what happens in the next part of the story. It feels really unnecessary, and especially
It feels like busy work and
why
padding.
isn't he going back to school and explaining, I'm sorry, my father died and I need to take time off, and how do I make up my studies? What is this?
So after all of that for days,
Days.
weeks,
Oh.
Ryo eventually causes them enough trouble by fighting random gang members and protecting workers and all stuff that does that happen first? He gets fired at some point for the fact that since he's shown up, the gang has become more of a problem because somebody's protecting people.
Right, that's fair.
But B, something weird happens. Well, not weird. You can probably guess where this is going. Ina-san tells Ryo that Nozomu's family called. She didn't come home.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is so that good. There's a goodbye thing there.
Mm-hmm.
That goodbye is like Nozomi comes to the harbor, and like they share a moment. There's a picture taken of them by one of her friends, and you get to pick which picture you keep, and it's weird because one picture is like you guys far apart, one picture is you guys close together. She gets the one you don't pick, so it gets weird.
Yeah.
But Nozomi didn't come home, and right around then, the phone rings. Ryo picks up, and it's Chai taunting Ryo, and Ryo can hear Nozomi in the background. And Chai basically says, like, you got 4 hours to get to warehouse or behind warehouse 17 to meet the deadline.
Oh, wow. Great.
And it's interesting because, like, that's actually hard to do. Like, Ryo has to get a bike and, like,
Race over there.
So, interesting little aside here. This is something that kind of came out in the past few years. At one point during development, it was Fukusan who got kidnapped.
Oh, really?
But Yu Suzuki literally responded to the cutscenes and stuff with, like, nobody would want to rescue him. So they made it Nozomi.
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. It makes more sense character-wise, too. And if you're writing an arc of this relationship, it's realizing, yes, I do care for Nozomi. I just was so distracted. But now that she's in the midst of everything. And unfortunately, it's a tired trope of kidnap the girl, too. But
no, we're going to see right here that Ryo is still Mission Lan-di. Like...
Oh, well.
So, to rescue Nozomi, they give Ryo some conditions. He must break Gui Zhang's leg, Master Chen's son, because Master Chen's business, like, he's legitimate, is keeping the Mad Angels from basically owning the whole city in terms of the underworld and drug trade and all that stuff. So, Ryo has a condition of his own. Like, I'll do it.
Whoa, okay.
But you have to take me to Lan-di. Because at this point, Ryo has found out that Lan-di is still in Japan.
Right.
So Terry, the leader of the Mad Angels, gives his word for what that matters, but does let Ryo take Nozomi home. Mm-hmm. You know, they leave on a motorcycle to a completely out of place piece of music. Like, it's like it's like a poppy, not poppy love song. It's like this slow ballady love song as they're riding away on the bike.
Well, I think it's supposed to be like this heroic trope of I saved my love, and now we've succeeded, at least in this moment. So I guess they're playing into that trope. But also, you're right. If he's like, all right, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to break somebody's leg. Like, that's not that romantic anymore, is it?
It's kind of weird because we have a meetup that we have to attend. Tom wants to give us food for lunch. Like, I'll treat you to lunch.
Yeah.
And because Tom is also working a hot dog stand in the harbor.
Okay.
This is when Ryo gets fired. I forgot. So Ryo gets fired. He has time to burn before lunch with Tom, and then he has to meet Gui Zhang like later on with the gang. Like, they're gonna watch him do this. So in that time, like, you can go talk to Nozomi, and she's like, it was so nice, we should ride a bike again. And Ryo could be like, yes.
Okay.
We should do this again. Yes. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like, he can agree with everything. And one of the Let's Plays was like, this is the most he's ever been committed to this relationship in this whole game.
Yeah. That's bizarre.
So, and we get a goodbye from Tom, who's going back to the States. So that's a thing.
Okay.
And then, so Ryo must fight Guizhang, and they kind of really fight, but really don't. Like, there's kind of like, just take the L,
Right.
Like, and they both end up on the ground,
Uh-oh.
essentially. Like, they're evenly matched, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So Terry, the gang leader, just comes up to kill them both, and, Ryu rolls out of the way and grabs Guizhang out of the way. And so then they both team up to defeat all 70 members of the Mad Angels gang.
Suddenly, we're just in a crazy kung fu movie from back in the day.
Yeah, like, obviously this isn't like a massive circle of guys around you.
Yeah.
It's as you move through the environment, more of them keep trickling in because, well, Dreamcast.
Yes.
Upon defeat of all the guys and Terry reveals to Ryo that Landi just left for Hong Kong, taken to a boat by Chai like hours ago. So out of his grasp.
And so he would have broken his friend's legs for nothing.
Friend is putting it strongly, but allies?
His ally's leg. Well, he needs to work with him because Master Chen is helping him, right?
Yeah.
And that's Master Chen's son.
Yeah. So, Ryu's kind of getting help at this point. He meets up with, Ine-san and Fuku-san, give him a chunk of change, like, because now he's committed. Like, I have to go follow him.
Right.
So he's boarding a boat to Hong Kong, basically following Landi. And Master Chen and Guizhang are there. And they're kind of just standing around, and they're talking about, what's going to be in China for you. How can we help you? I think he said, we're going to send Guizhang with you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, something's going to happen because of how the camera moves.
Right.
But this iron girder just falls down into the group of them.
Oh my gosh.
Because Chai drops it on them. And Master Chen is okay. Guizhang's leg is broken. Ryu defeats Chai.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't Chai supposed to be on a boat with Landu, though?
No, he took him to the boat and then kind of came back. He's weird. He pops up here and there. He actually pops up between games, too. I'll touch on that.
Oh, my gosh.
So, Guizhang's not going now. Broken leg. So Ryu boards the boat himself. Master Chen tells him to seek out the help of a master of the Chinese martial arts located in Wanchai named Tao Li Shao.
Okay.
And then as he's kind of looking back, he remembers Nozomi kind of recently giving him an amulet as they say their goodbyes for the last time.
Yeah.
As she is now heading to Canada and he is leaving to Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryu boards the boat and travels to Hong Kong in pursuit of Landi, concluding the first chapter of the game. Sorry, the first chapter of the story and the first game.
Okay.
There is a chapter 2.
Yes.
That takes place between Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2.
Okay.
We will touch on that when we next
get to
Shenmue.
This is a lot.
There's like 4.
Super complicated.
So here's the thing. Shenmue 1 is the first chapter. Shenmue 2 is 3, 4, and 5. And chapter 2 is a comic book that was digitally released between the two.
No, this sounds like it shouldn't have been a chapter. That seems like the first book in a series.
Yeah.
And then the next game is the next book in a series. Like if you're talking about the amount of storytelling you're doing.
Yeah.
You're doing so much.
Like I said, Yu Suzuki has said like, oh, there's a story for a 4 and a 5.
Yeah.
4 might wrap up the story. 5 might be necessary. And it's like, dude, you're 80. Like,
you gotta do this now.
But 3 wasn't exactly well received. So.
Oh, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, this wouldn't be the first series we cover that is left with an unknown at the end.
This happens
Beyond
so
Good
much,
and Evil.
yeah.
We know there's a Beyond Good and Evil 2 somewhere.
Somewhere
but, yeah.
out there, there's Beyond Good and Evil 2. somewhere out there, there's Primal Rage 2. You know, oh my gosh, this is insane. This is
So,
I'm not going to remember half of the story when we come back to this because there's just so much to keep up with.
I mean, the broad strokes of the story is very simple. Ryo's father dies. Ryo swears revenge, does all the work necessary to follow the guy. Like, that's all you really need to remember.
Well, but there's all these other subplots, like the friends who are leaving his town in Japan. And
the cat.
Yes.
The orphaned cat. So the cat was orphaned when the black car ran over its mother. Like,
and
everything. Yeah.
And the little girl who had this cat was
Megumi.
Megumi.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, the cat has, like, relevance on the plot with Nozomi.
Oh,
because
geez.
depending on how well the cat is doing, Nozomi has different cutscenes with Megumi and you as you walk out of your house. Like, it.
This is a lot. This is a heavy weight of storytelling, just all over this.
And it's
game.
not so. I did say this game didn't age well. It is not helped by the control schemes. I mean, the control schemes aren't terrible, but these days it would helped greatly by dual analog,
right?
Because Dreamcast didn't have dual analog.
That's right. They did not.
And it's kind of, you know, a little bit like Resident Evil in terms of like the clunkiness of like investigation controls a little bit.
Does it have a fixed camera as well?
I do not remember off the top of my head, actually.
I think so.
I think it does.
Because
until you're outside.
Outside, yeah, I wouldn't. But I would think it would have a lot more fixed cameras.
But everything is just slow. Like your interface is slow. Your watch, you have to pull up your watch. You have a journal. You have to kind of go through every single drawer in your desk to get certain items when you first start out.
Are you sure you're not explaining a Fallout game? It just makes me think of checking your Pip-Boy and looting everything that you can that's not.
But you're not even looting. Like
for stealing.
So Ryo keeps a journal, which is cool because if I pick up again months after the last time I played, I can be like, oh, here's where I am in the story.
Here's
okay,
where
cool.
I am in the story. Yes, that's
Which,
very good.
Honestly, more games should do.
Yes.
I've been playing.
A quest tracker in general is a good idea.
Well, the thing is, they have to be done well. Like I've been playing Cyberpunk lately, and I know that there's a quest tracker, but it's not. It's kind of sequential. But I'm like, what is the? This is the next step in this quest chain.
Yeah.
But what was the quest before that in this long list of completed quests I have?
No, what have I already done? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, I don't remember what this quest was about. Okay.
Right. Well, they're thinking you're going to play all the way through because they want you to be addicted to the game and possibly not have a job that involves you playing a bunch of video games.
It is fair to say that Shenmue is real to a fault.
Yeah.
You know,
that's fair.
For the level of tech they had at the time, as real as they could make it to a fault.
Right.
So
yeah. We're gonna have some block faces, aren't we?
Maybe there's a lot of HD texture mods.
Well, we'll see, because I'm assuming I'm playing it on the computer for.
Yes, we are playing Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. And we will do that the Thursday after this episode comes out. And we will not be doing a Let's Play of this because it would take forever.
Right.
Our Skies of Arcadia episode Let's Play has taken forever. That's only on, 25, 26, something like that?
Yes. Yeah. And we've already got plans for after that, too.
Some of the Let's Plays I saw for Shenmue were 72
I could see that.
episodes.
I could see even up to 100 depending on how long you play per session. So.
But, yeah. So, sorry for all the names I mispronounced, and hope we'll catch you at the stream.
Yeah, hope we catch you then. And
it's going to be a lot of cutscenes.
So many. If you're ready for cutscenes, join us. And yeah, and don't forget the alternate Thursdays, Skies of Arcadia. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.